Hi, everybody. I think we've gone live this time, Victoria. So I think I've actually learned how to do it and press the button. So hi, everybody in the Facebook group who has joined myself and Victoria today for a bit of a live question and answer. Hopefully you've managed to register to put your name if you want to ask questions, but if not, put questions below and we will try and answer them in the next day or so. So I thought I'd do a quick introduction about myself and then hand over to Victoria so she can tell you a little bit about herself. So obviously I'm Tracy Collins. I run the Facebook group and I've got 3 websites. I've got tracystravelsintown.com, uktravelplanning.com, which is I guess where most of you found the group from, and the new website londontravelplanning.com. So I'm originally from the UK. I was born in the northeast, hence I've got a northern accent, a Geordie accent, posh Geordie apparently now. But I have lived in 7 countries around the world over the course of 50-something years. I won't tell you my age, including Australia, which is where we are based at the moment, but always kind of popping back to the UK from wherever I've lived. So I've lived in North America, in Africa, just loads of places in Europe, Switzerland, France, all over. So, but say in Australia at the moment. So that's basically me. So obviously you'll see me a lot in the Facebook group, and I'll pass over to Victoria.
Oh, thanks, Tracy. Hello, everybody. Anybody listening or watching? Yeah, I'm Victoria. I am owner of Cotswold Teacup Tours, which is my fairly new little business I started just after the pandemic, taking people on bespoke tours of the Cotswolds, private tours. And I think I found my passion in life. I used to work for Oxford University and a few local private charities for a very long time. And it was always my ambition to have my own little business. It was a family tradition where both my parents had their own businesses, and it was kind of something that was always going to happen at some point. And so I am living the dream. And it's great. And so I do lots of 1-day trips, 2 days. It depends what people want, really. I grew up in the Cotswolds. I am a proper local girl. I was born in Oxford in the John Radcliffe Hospital, and grew up in a little village in the middle of nowhere, just on the edge of the Cotswolds. So I feel like I know the area pretty well.
I think
I'm
so.
still discovering new places. It's a big area.
Yeah, it is, and that's something I do tell people, because I think often people think they can see the Cotswolds. We've said this a number of times before in a very short period of time, but really to get the best out of the Cotswolds, you do need to give yourself a bit of time, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it takes 4 hours to drive from north to south, and 2 hours to drive from east to west.
Wow. Yeah.
It gives
So
you an idea anyway, a rough idea.
Exactly. And we have got some podcasts, previous podcasts where you can listen to Victoria. So I will link to those. We'll be using this live as a podcast as well. So I will link to those episodes, which I can't remember off the top of my head, the number of those, but we did a couple. So you can find out a bit more information about Victoria and about the Cotswolds in those. So we did receive some questions for this live. So that was great. So I think we'll launch into the questions. We're going to do it as a conversation, and kind of we've had a look at the questions and just kind of chat through it and give you what we think, or what our thoughts are on them. So the first lot of questions are from Robbie. So hi, Robbie. Which an interesting first question really was, what are pet peeves the British have about American tourists? So I don't know, Victoria, if you want to answer this one.
Brits love American tourists because they're so positive and they're so full of enthusiasm and interested. When I'm touring with American guests, and I just watch how they interact with the different shop owners, or different businesses, or the locals, and everyone's always interested, slightly curious. The Brits are curious about the Americans and want to know, how long you're here for and where are you staying, and it's a genuine warmth. I mean, okay, I'll be honest, there have been a couple of occasions, a couple of cringe moments when I had to maybe suggest that people don't put their hands up against private windows of houses and peer in, which is slightly awkward. But no, I don't know too many peeves.
No, I don't. I couldn't think of anything. I mean, I think there's a kind of reputation about Americans being quite loud, but like I'm loud, and this is about individuals anyway. So,
Mm.
like, I think it's sometimes. I mean, I have to because I am so loud. I have to be really conscious of kind of the environment I'm in. So I guess that's something I would say is just be conscious. Like if you're on a train and it's a quiet carriage, I try to keep my voice down. I say I've got a loud voice anyway. But I think it's about individuals. Like I don't think that there's any kind of I don't use any kind of stereotypical ideas because I think we enjoy meeting people from different nationalities and answering the questions, and instead there's always that interest. I always want to know where they're from. I just because
Yeah.
it's like I'm also learning a lot about Americans with doing our itinerary consults, like all these different places that I didn't know. So I think it's what's really good is that that enthusiasm and wanting to also to share a little bit about where they're from, which is really cool.
Yes. Yeah.
And actually, Robbie asked about the reputation about British people being reserved and that being put off by the enthusiasm. And again, it's about individuals because I can be quite reserved in some situations, but I'm pretty loud. I'm pretty confident, I guess.
I look
But,
forward to seeing that side of you, Tracy.
what being quiet and reserved. Well, listen, I've always been friendly. My mom said when I was 4 years of age, I'd walk down the street and go, "Hi, my name's Tracy. What's your name?" I've always been interested in people. I love people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my interest. So I guess maybe I don't know, because again, say not typically British, but I just think we're all different, and it's all about individuals, isn't it? And I think it is worth remembering, though, and it's for anybody really, is that, and it doesn't matter where you go in the world. It's like wherever you're visiting, that it's not a fairy tale. This is actually where people live, and it's their businesses, and it's their lives, and I think that's the privilege that we get of from traveling. Really, is to actually be able to meet people from all walks of life and kind of understand a little bit about how their lives are.
Mm.
So
I don't think I think sometimes Brits may seem reserved at first, and they may be sort of having a moment to slightly kind of work you out a little bit, and then once they've kind of a few seconds into a
yeah,
conversation, and people warm up really quickly, and we'll start chatting, and I mean, I every time I go out on a tour, I end up chatting to randoms, and we have a nice little chat about nothing really, and
yeah.
or the dogs or something like that.
I think
And
it's always finding that kind of common ground, isn't it? And then
yeah,
breaking
oh
ice
yeah,
and having the conversation.
yeah.
And actually, there was I'll kind of skip to another question. We'll go back to the one about the gardens, but actually, I'm just going to find it because it kind of relates. Where is it? It was actually about meeting British people. Again, it was from Robbie. Actually, it's like how would be the best way to meet people, and to be honest, I think the best way to do it, and it's interesting because the podcast that I've just recorded with Wendy, which is actually out tonight, she actually mentions that she loved staying in B&Bs and guest houses because that was a fantastic way to meet local people, because the local people are often running the B&B or guest house, but you're going to have lots of different people staying in the guest house and B&B as well, and from all over the world. And I remember we stayed in a guest house on Isle of Skye last year, and there were Canadians, there were South Africans, there were Americans, and there were Scottish people staying in that B&B as well. And it was fantastic. They had a lovely lounge area, and every evening we'd go and get a glass of wine and just chat about where people had been during the day. Same at breakfast, oh, where are you going today? What have you done? So that to me is a really good way of kind of meeting people. I think hotels are fine, but if you really want to get to know the people and also try the very good breakfasts, because that's what you'll get in the B&B, after a guest house as well, get a good cooked breakfast, and that's the time to kind of make those connections and kind of find out about the people who run it, because obviously often there will be locals that are running it. Yeah, so I don't know what you think on that, Victoria, as well. Do you think that's yeah?
I completely agree with you, Tracy. I think B&Bs. My mum used to run a very nice B&B, and many years ago. So I kind of grew up in that culture of and it was so nice for people being in kind of a lovely farmhouse setting in somebody's home, but you would feel like you were really part of the family a little bit. Not like included in everything in the evenings, but if you had your own little sitting room or something,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
as you say, the breakfast, it's all about the breakfast.
Oh, I've been at some B&Bs. I know some people don't like it where everybody sits at the same table, and
Yeah.
I was the one, and it's like introducing yourself and
Yeah.
having that conversation. So that would be one way that I'd recommend it. I know there was a question about the difference between like pubs and bars, and we were talking about because we were just chatting about this before we came on, and pubs are very different from bars, and you'll find pubs
Yeah.
all over the UK. So like we're saying, like a village may just have the local pub, and they won't have a bar in it, but a bar in the village, but they'll probably there'll be a pub,
That's
the
right.
King's
Yeah.
Arms or the Red Lion or
Yeah, that's it. The difference, I think, if I'm going out for a drink into a town, say Oxford nearby or London, I'll go to a bar with my friends, a cocktail or something like that. And then, but in a village, you're there with your locals and everyone from the village, and yeah, it's a much more kind of relaxed, kind of cozy feel. Very different vibe.
Absolutely, and a bit more like people will know each other. I was just saying that, so
Friendly landlord.
yeah, everybody will know everybody else as well, potentially. Sorry?
Sorry, I said, "Oh, landlady."
Or landlord or landlady, absolutely. And I remember it's like growing up in the northeast, and my dad would come in from work, he'd have a bath, and then he'd go to the pub and he'd go and have a couple of pints, and he'd meet all his mates and they'd chat, and and that was, he enjoyed doing that. So you'll find in areas that it's their local pub, and that's where they'll go and have a drink, have a game of darts or whatever. So it's like it's a social thing. Whereas, going to a bar is a bit more dressy. You get cocktails. It's not going to be necessarily going to know everybody. It's a completely different feel. So that would be the difference. So I'd recommend that you do, go and try some pubs when they're in the UK. That'd be good to do. Absolutely. And I know when you take tours, you go to pubs, don't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. We always go to get a nice pub lunch somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's it. Some pubs do really good lunches as well, so you can get a good lunch, or some have little restaurant aside to them as well, so you can get that kind of pub fare. So it's going to be like your things like fish and chips, scampi and chips, gammon steak. Oh my goodness, my mouth's watering thinking about being over in the UK in April. Gammon steak and chips. That sort of again relaxed eating atmosphere. So that was it. I think that was a little bit about answering those questions from Robbie, but we've got some good questions about gardens and gardening. And actually, I've just seen a question that popped up from Monica Wilson. Hello, Monica. I don't know if you can see the question as well, Victoria. Yeah, we'll be visiting the Cotswolds in April. And I was wondering if flowers, gardens are blooming at that time, or is it still too early? I'm going to hand this to you, Victoria.
Oh, that's a lovely time to be visiting. It's great because you're going to have, so I think we'll find some of the magnolias are going to be out in April. There may be some daffodils still out, so you'll get the spring flowers. Yeah, so then there'll be, I'm just thinking now, there'll be a whole variety of the spring flowers. So the kind of the early ones still. I'm racking my brains now. I went out today to Batsford Arboretum.
Yes.
And I was reading through the list of what flowers each month. And it's just completely gone out of my head, actually.
I just see the
flower. Sorry, cherry blossom.
Ah, yes.
Flower.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So that'll be really good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go in April, May, June, and even maybe the beginning of July. So I can do a little report on, just do some pictures of all the different flowers, because I just love going around the gardens any time of year. Which we've got to. Yeah, well, I had seen it through the seasons. I mean, I'd like to. It would be great to go every month and take. Actually, well, you could do that. I mean, you do. You've got a really good article on your website where you've got the different months, which is really great. So yeah, talking about the gardens, I know Robbie's asked again is about. She's not a very good gardener, but she's aspiring to be. So a question is, why do we like to tour gardens? And I love gardens, so I just just the beauty of them, the smells, the flowers, the history behind a lot of them. I was never a very keen gardener, but Doug is, and we had a beautiful garden in the UK. And then I started growing lilies, and I grew sweet peas, which is something my grandfather used to grow. So I kind of thought I've got it, and sweet peas are easy to grow. And then I started growing lilies, and then we had vegetables as well. Even though I don't think I've got green fingers, I just enjoy the whole. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. And I know you do grow flowers, Victoria, still?
Yeah, I do. I do. I'm getting a bit busy with the tools, but my other passion is growing flowers, and I sell them commercially.
Yeah.
I've signed myself up to the Chiswick Flower Market this year for 2 dates to take my flowers to London.
Oh,
To sell them
wow.
at the market. So, which is really exciting, but it means there's a little bit of pressure there to get my flowers in tip-top condition. But anyway.
I'm sure there will be. I'm sure there will be.
I hope so. But I like going to the gardens because some of them are really old gardens that still maintain their sort of original concept and design from 200 or 300 years ago when they were first created. It's amazing. And then there'll be a collection of plants from all over the world, fully, like established now. Or it's just the fact that it's just the design. It's like something I can't create myself. I'm not very good at designing a garden. Everything's a bit hodgepodge and a bit of a mess in my garden. But I love seeing how the experts do it.
Oh, and it's and every garden you go to is different. You've got the kind of
Yeah.
cottage gardens. If you go to Kifscote, you've got all the roses, which are amazing, and you get the different themed gardens at Hidcote and all. I love it. I could happily every day just go to a different, tour the UK and just visit a different garden because.
Yeah.
And I've got so many videos and photos from last year, and that's one thing I'm really looking forward to doing in the Cotswolds this year. It is just, and wisteria. I love wisteria over old buildings. And I think wisteria will be out April, beginning of May. You get the wisteria.
May time, I think.
Yeah, May time. Yeah. So I think that'll be amazing. We've got another couple of questions popped up, so we'll quickly have a look at those. So, we've got, how does one travel the Cotswolds? Can you go from town to town if you don't have a car, or should I go with a tour group?
Yeah.
So Cotswolds isn't easy to get around, particularly, is it?
There is a village bus. So you could catch the train from London, Paddington, to Morton in Marsh, and there is a village bus, and that goes around to Stow-on-the-Wold and lots of tiny little villages, but there's a timetable online, so you can research where it goes. But it's not, it's not like the most reliable system. It's good, though. It is good, and they are regular. It's just, you might be waiting a little bit, that's all.
Yeah, I guess it depends like how much time. If you're going to base yourself in the Cotswolds for a bit, then you could probably do that. If you wanted to go, we're talking earlier about how big it is that your best bet is probably to book a tour. And obviously Victoria does tours in the Cotswolds, so you can always talk to Victoria. There's our private tours, so she can kind of tailor make them to exactly what you want. So if you're interested in the gardens, if you want to see some of the quaint villages, and believe me, you'll drive through, and I've seen thatched cottages and I go, well, it can't get any prettier than this. And then you drive through and you're like, oh wow, it just got prettier, and then it gets prettier, and then I just take more photos. I should share some of these in the group actually, because it's just, I couldn't afford one of these houses, but I just look and go, wow, they're the quintessential roses around the door cottage.
Yeah, they are.
Just stunning. You could do the public transport if you really want to. It would be a bit more logistically. You'd have to think about working that out. And I know there are some tours that, because we stayed in Bolton on the Water last year, and there were some tours that people were walking, and they were basically, the company was moving the luggage from hotel to hotel. So I know that some people do go to the Cotswolds to walk actually. And then we have got a question. I know somebody's asked about London. I will go back to that one in a bit, Elizabeth. Monica is staying in Chipping Camden for 3 days, and she wants to do some hiking and walking. So any recommendations for good hikes near there? Have you got anything on your website about that, Victoria? That might be useful, kind of.
Yeah, I'm doing I'm doing a bit of a project at the moment on walks.
Yeah.
But Chipping Camden is depending on which way you look at it, is the end or the starting point of the Cotswold Way, which is about a 5-day walk across England to Bath from Chipping Camden.
Wow.
Yeah, so you could do like a little bit of the Cotswold Way, but there's some great maps. So you could get a map and then do like a nice loop or something. There'll be some great walks to do. But yeah, we have ordnance survey maps, they're called, and then you can track your route that you want to take.
Perfect. I think there's some useful apps as well, because I've got a friend who's a walker in the UK, and I'll get a link to the apps that he recommended that might be worth also looking at.
I would say I did a walk the other day and I had an app, but I still managed to get myself lost. So I really needed a map as well.
Oh yes, you did a map. I was thinking more for planning. Oh yes, I would never go anywhere without a map.
Yeah.
Like I have to have, because you just never, your phone conks out, you lose your signal, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever. I have paper of everything. Even like if I go on holiday, I have everything on my phone, but I also have a paper copy. I've learned, and anything can happen to your phone. So I think that's definitely worth doing. So I'm just having a look at what other questions we've got. So we're asked about food. And I will go back to the London question. I promise, Elizabeth. I know you're probably waiting patiently. So are fish and chips the national favourite meal? What is pub fare? And there was a bit again about pubs, which I think we've answered. So fish and chips. Well, national dishes. I don't know. Fish and chips, bangers and mash, haggis, nips and tatties. It depends where you are, because there's just I guess fish and chips is pretty much all over the country, but there's lots of regional specialities when it comes to foods. And there are things like a roast on a Sunday is very common. So if you want to have a roast, book yourself in for that, because a lot of families will go out for a roast dinner, and that's a tradition. I mean, every Sunday I used to go to my grandmother's house for roast, and she made the best Yorkshire puddings on the planet. So a fish and chips. I mean, I enjoy fish and chips. Things like gammon steak, scampi. I ate so much scampi when I was back in the UK. I think I ate my body weight in scampi. But things like just different regional things. So you could go down to Devon and Cornwall and have your scone with jam on first or cream on first, depending if you're from Devon or Cornwall. Afternoon teas are very popular in the UK. I love afternoon tea, so I quite happily go afternoon tea every day, but my clothes tell me not to. So do you bake or cook anything that you would consider kind of like favorite meal or dish or cake? Victoria sponge cake. I can hear Doug kind of going, Victoria sponge cake.
Yeah, well, this week I've made a nice fish pie with mashed potato topping, and then I made a cottage pie. So that was minced lamb with a mashed potato topping. Bit of a theme. Bit of stodge in the wintertime.
You need it.
And then and I made a very nice Victoria sponge this weekend for the family, with lemon curd, a bit of buttercream, and then strawberry jam inside.
Oh, lovely.
It didn't last long.
I bet it didn't.
Yeah.
I bet it didn't. Can I put an order in for one of those?
Yeah, I'll make you one.
Thank you. I absolutely love lemon curd. So I don't know, actually, is lemon curd, we can get it in Australia. You can get it as lemon curd, but it's also called something else. But I don't know in America. I'm going to ask the Americans that are listening, or Canadians that are listening. Didn't you get lemon curd in America? I don't know. I absolutely love
what we're talking about.
Yeah, you might go. Actually, I have a picture of myself I shared a video yesterday in the group of myself and Doug last year and Sally Lunn's in Bath, because we popped in for a cup of tea and a Sally Lunn's bun. And I have that with lemon curd. So I will put that picture in the group later, because that somebody said you can buy a jar of lemon curd. Yay. That's good to know, because I'm going to be over in the States later on in the year, so I mean, so I don't need to bring any. So that's really good. So speaking of food, I heard that Sunday is roast day. Yes, generally roast. Sunday is traditionally the day that you'll get a roast. Is that the only day that a good roast meal is offered? No, you can get a roast most places. can get a roast. You can get, there's places called carveries in the UK, so you can go in and basically they'll give you a choice of a few different meats, and then you get your vegetables and your potatoes, and you kind of go down the line. They cut the meat. Yeah, I love carveries. Yeah. You go down the line, and then you kind of choose what vegetables and stuff you want to go. But they're a really good place to go if not on it. Well, you can go there on a Sunday, but they're generally all week. So I don't know. Oh, are any restaurants in Chipping Camden for a roast? That's putting you on the spot, Victoria. Might have to come back to that one if you.
I have an answer. Just like that.
You have. Oh, amazing! Is Victoria, guys?
There is a lovely pub in Chipping Camden. It's called the 8 Bells, and they'll do you a nice roast lunch. If it's not a Sunday, there'll be something on the menu that will sort of say, you know, roast chicken breast with potatoes, vegetables, and things. Yeah. It won't say Sunday roast, but it will sound pretty much the
same. Same. You get Yorkshire pudding and a choice of meats and stuff like that. You can get them in the, you know, the pubs will often do them, but again, sort of time thing. So until like 4 o'clock ish, they might cut off. It's a lunch thing generally on a Sunday. That's the thing. I think that was something I was talking to Wendy again about this season's podcast. She got caught out a little bit because they finish at 4, and do book if like you're staying in a popular place like Bath or York somewhere. I would recommend booking, because it is like the family will go out for a roast on a Sunday, because you know you want a break from cooking. But traditionally in the UK, I mean, I can talk about from the northeast. My grandmother would actually cook the meat on a Saturday and let it go cold. So traditionally beef is what I always remember making, and then she would. This is going to sound disgusting, and then the fat would settle on the top. And then I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head now, it's gone. Then my mum would put that on bread and a bit of salt, she'll tell me. Dripping, that's it, dripping on bread, which no thanks. But my mum used to have that. So we used to go out shopping on a Saturday. My grandmother would have the roast, it would be cold, the fat, and then my mum would have it on bread. And then on the Sunday, we would have the roast dinner with Yorkshire puddings. And then alternative weeks, I hope this isn't too boring for me, we'd either have rice pudding and jam, and then the following week we'd have custard and jelly. It was very traditional. And then on the Monday we'd have whatever was left over heated up.
Wow.
We used to do the same every day.
Time was in the Victorian times.
Yeah, well, I'm not that old, Victoria.
I didn't mean it like that.
This is like, I guess this is the 70s, and again, like my grandparents, my grandfather's a coal miner. He used to come in from the coal mines. So you know, Friday was always fish. Wednesday should do a hot pot. It was always the meat 2 veg thing, apart from Friday when they had fish. So it always sticks in my mind that. But yeah, so lots of places to try, traditional foods, and there's just so much really. I have got an article about different UK foods, so English foods. So have a look. Might be British. Have a look. Can't remember off the top of my head. Have a look through, because there are lots of different things worth trying when you're over there. I think the Cornish pasties and there's some lovely stuff. I've got some really good feedback about lemon curd, so I can that's good, so I don't need to take any lemon curd when I go over to America. That's brilliant. So let me pop up, because I just want to answer Elizabeth's question quickly. So she's just asking about London, best area to stay in London. So I have we get asked this question a lot. It's probably one of the most common questions that comes up in the group, and I just want to say, really, don't get bogged down in this. I know a lot of people get bogged down in where they're going to stay in London, and I recommend stay in zone 1 if you can. It's just easier for transport, and believe me, you will do a lot of walking in London. And the last thing you want to do at the end of a day is then have to trudge back along. Well, you might want to, but I'm just talking from myself. I don't really want to walk a huge amount when I get back, because I'm out all day, and so I like a hotel to be hotel to be near the tube station. So areas that I tend to recommend are around kind of Covent Garden area, as there's a lot going on in Covent Garden. There's lots of restaurants, theatre. It's just got a really good vibe. So that's really popular. It's easy to walk to places, so you can get down to Leicester Square, Trafalgar Square, all around there. So it's a nice area to stay in. Good. It's well served again by the tube, but just Covent Garden tube station is the only one I kind of go, it's a lift down. So if you can walk to Holborn or Leicester Square, they're quite close. The other area that's quite good is South Bank beside the London Eye, because you're opposite the House of Parliament. So that's an also very popular place to stay, and you can walk down South Bank. Another area that we stayed in last year was Tower Hill, near the Tower Hill station, because we were going to the Tower of London very early for the walks tour, which was excellent. So we decided that it was easier to stay there. But again, that's a really good area to stay. Very popular. Again, tube links are excellent from there. But I will share a link to my article, which I think I've kind of done information about the kind of 12 areas, because you could go out if you wanted something different as far as Greenwich, because that's again a different area, and we've stayed there as well. But I guess for tourists, I would probably say those 3 would be my top choices. But again, please don't get bogged down on it, because you can get stuck on that. Just find one of the areas, read through it, find an area, and just go, right, that's the area I'm going to stay in. And I think that's where, just don't go too far out, because say you'll be commuting in and out, and try and get somewhere near to a tube station. That would be my recommendation. I hope that helps, Elizabeth. So let's have a look. We've got loads of questions popping up. Best food app for UK. Ooh, good question. And I've probably got one in my article, but I can't think off the top of my head. I'll have to have a look at that. Is that for like restaurants and things? And then is it better to get a hotel that offers breakfast or just see what's out? Well, it depends. I like B&B, because then you get a good breakfast, and that sets you up for the day. I don't know about you, Victoria.
Oh, it depends. If it's a nice looking hotel,
well, yes,
and you don't want to eat breakfast there, then but you see a nice cafe around the corner and think, oh, they've got a good deal, or they've got a nice sounding breakfast, I'd be all for that too. I love breakfast.
Yeah, well, so outside of London, we stayed in. We tend to stay in we stayed in Shepherd's Hut though, and we stayed in Glamping Pod. So obviously they actually Shepherd's Hut didn't, but the Glamping Pod we got breakfast, so we could cook it ourselves. So it's up to you. I mean, if I stay in a hotel in London, I tend not to get breakfast. I go out and Covent Garden. There's some really good places to go and have breakfast. What I do insist on is that there is a kettle, which sounds like a crazy thing, but we stayed in a hotel last year which didn't have a kettle in the room, and which kind of takes us on to the next question. I can't function in the morning without a cup of tea. I can't. I have 3 cups of tea before I get out of bed. So, and you also like your tea as well, don't you, Victoria?
Yeah, there has to be a massive pot. I'll show you my pot one day.
Oh, yeah.
I have to get through.
I love Assam Bold, so I drink a lot of Assam Bold tea. And I know we've been asked, why is tea the drink of choice? So a lot of, Doug and I love tea. I don't like coffee. I just don't enjoy it. I don't like the taste. Actually, Doug doesn't either. So I guess it's one of those, just taste things. I know you did a little bit of research on this, Victoria. You were saying that how many million cups were consumed every day? Was it crazy?
I have to. I found this. I was very surprised, and now I've just lost it. 100 million cups of tea is consumed daily in the UK. And we are the third largest tea drinking nation, behind Turkey and the Republic of Ireland.
Huh. Well, I firmly believe when I'm there, April, May, June, we will be the top tea drinking nation, because I drink that. And I think I could probably drink 100 million myself. Honestly, I absolutely love it. So I don't know. I just think, again, I grew up that I can't remember my grandparents. So my grandparents had a lot of influence in my early life. I can't remember my grandparents ever drinking coffee, to be honest. I think it was, we're talking late 60s and 70s, and it was always tea. And I've just always loved tea since. So, any of you who watch Ted Lasso will kind of understand the brown water thing, which is how I feel about coffee, actually. So you drink a lot of tea, don't you, as well, Victoria? I mean, you're a first thing in the morning cup of tea, or are you a coffee?
I'm a tea and a coffee girl.
Okay.
Throughout the day.
Yeah.
Keep me topped up. I'll be fine.
The app request was about finding restaurants and making reservations. Yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head. I will find that information out, and I'll link to that, because there are a few, and I'll just have to double check which is kind of the recommended one at the moment. So, what was the next? Oh, yes. So, Monica's asking, Victoria, do you have a recommended high tea in or near Chipping Camden? And actually, there's a difference between high tea and afternoon tea, which comes up quite a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Afternoon tea is, well, in the afternoon, but it will be, so that might just be scones and cream and jam with a pot of tea, or it might be, your tiers of cakes. The bottom tier will be cakes. Nope, got that wrong. Sandwiches.
Yeah.
And then the next tier will be cakes, and then the top tier will be the scones. And so high tea is something that happens, that's kind of like sort of a supper. So that would be sort of 5 or 6 p.m., maybe a bit of cheese on toast, kind of little sandwiches type thing. Don't think we really do that anymore. It sounds very Mary Poppins.
Yeah, I think again that would be something that my grandparents did because they're small meals. They're kind of 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I mean, honestly, regimented 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Those were the times they ate. Yeah, so that 4 o'clock one would have been probably a couple of slices of bread with some jam or fruit or whatever, and then a cup of tea. So yeah, that. But high tea is like a kind of small meal. So I guess Monica, is it? I guess afternoon tea probably that you have to near Chipping Camden. So.
I would recommend you'll find the Bantam tea rooms in Chipping Camden. They're right on the high street. You'll see them really easily, and this lovely little tea room. Really good cake in there. Great carrot cake.
Brilliant. I think Monica's
nice.
looking forward to that. Alex, it might be a fantastic time. And then we've got a question about combat and jet lag. Oh, okay. So I guess this is something that we deal with a lot because obviously we're flying over from Australia. So at the moment we're 10 hours ahead. So poor Victoria, I don't know what time it is there. It's nearly midnight, is it? So jet lag. So I found the best way is to try to slip into the time zone that you are in. So to try and stay awake all day if you can. So generally the flights from Australia get in, I'm trying to think, sort of 11, 12, because I usually fly into Birmingham. And I do my absolute utmost to stay awake and stay in the time zone that I'm in. And I was a nanny in the 80s and 90s, early 90s. And I remember a guy that was flying all over the world. And that's what he did. That was his advice to me. Because I remember him flying in from Japan one night and he's like, no, I need to, he's going to go to the gym and make sure that he then would go to bed because he'd tire himself out because he just needed to get into that time zone. So that try and sleep on the plane if you can. And I know that's easier said than done when it's a long flight. And I mean, we certainly know from Australia, because we're talking 21 to 23 hours. It's a long time that you're flying. But again, just trying to slot into the time zone if you can. So if you arrive in early in the morning, another thing that I do recommend is, say if you arrive in early on, is if you can book the hotel or the night before as well. So you're not waiting until 2, 3, whatever in the afternoon. I mean, some you can talk to and they might let you in a little bit earlier. But then you can get in your room and you can have a shower and then at least refresh yourself and then get out, do a little bit of walking. Don't over plan that first day. Do something like, go and do a cruise on the Thames or take the hop on off bus so you see some of the sites, but don't over plan because you will be exhausted. And I mean, Australians are pretty good at this because, traveling over to Europe and it is always the jet lag issue. But yeah, I think it's just preparing and, swapping your watch to the time zone as soon as you can so that you can slot into that. I don't know if anybody else's listeners got any other tips for that, but I was looking at kind of ideas for that first day in London. When you arrive, I was talking to somebody last week who was like interested about that. And again, it depends on what time of day that you get in there. But yeah, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on jet lag, Victoria, or
not myself personally. My guests have always said that the ones who seem to be most successful in the sort of beginning of the holiday are those who slept on the flight as much as possible.
Yeah,
if they're able to. But it's really hard sometimes if they book they're on day one and they've booked a tour with me, or day two, actually, that seems to really kick in.
Yes, yeah.
And then they're just so exhausted, and bless them, they're kind of apologizing at the end of the tour for not being themselves, because they're really quiet and you can just see it's hard for them.
I think that's actually a really good tip, you know, and I remember being in Rome a few years ago and taking a tour of the Vatican, and some family had just flown in actually from the States, and they came straight. I think they still, I don't know where they left their luggage, but they literally came straight on the tour, and I think they lasted about an hour, and they were like, we just can't. So I think, you know, if it's something you really want to do, don't put it in that first day, because you'll just be too tired. So again, it's just easing yourself in and expect it to, you know, kick in a few days in. I mean, you know, Australia have got 10 hours to contend with, so it does expect it to take a few days. You know, waking up in the middle of the night and being tired in the middle of the afternoon or whatever, you know, it does take some. I never get used to it, and I've been dealing with it my whole life. So we've got a nice thing. I just want to say thank you for everything your Facebook page and members have done for me, assisting my first solo trip to the UK. Looking forward to arriving in August from Australia. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, we love kind of hearing from you guys. And I just want to say thank you, everybody that was listening to the podcast and left all those fantastic reviews, because it really, really made my day for a few days, and we're still getting fantastic reviews in. And it's so lovely when we hear that, to know that, because obviously sometimes you don't know, you're kind of just talking away and you're not quite sure who's there. So Victoria, you'll be coming on the podcast again soon, I'm sure, to talk about I thought we might talk about kind of Cotswolds over the seasons. I think might be quite good, or things to do with spring, summer. I'm not sure what people will be interested in, but I think that would be good to talk about as well. Obviously, I'm going to be back for 3 months, so I'll be seeing Victoria. So hopefully, we'll be able to maybe do some nice things in tea rooms and, you know, chats and show you some things from there. So we've had a question about weather in April. So bring in layers, but aren't sure if we need a light jacket or warmer jacket. So yeah, April's a interesting month.
Well, yeah, it can be. I mean, we sort of know it as season. We sort of have an expression called the April showers. So you can have lovely sunny days in April, and it's kind of about, I think it works out because we have Celsius here, and so US. I don't know about other countries, but I know in the US they sort of have Fahrenheit, right? So
yeah.
I think it's somewhere between sort of 45, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Equivalent. That's the kind of temperatures in April, and you might have, so the April showers are, you'll just like a sudden downpour of rain, but then it will clear up again and it'll be gorgeous, lovely sunny day, and then about half an hour later there might be another downpour. So just layer up and, you know, take your Mac with you. And be prepared for that.
Absolutely. That's it. And I think I'd say that for any time that you visit, really, it's like you need to consider the layers, don't you? Because it can be. I was just actually, somebody asked in the group this morning. I remember in March sitting in our garden in a t-shirt and sunglasses and sun cream and a deck chair, because it was so warm and it's so hot. When the next March it might be, you know, frost still on the ground. You can't. It's still, and it's becoming more unpredictable, I think. I mean, last year we were in the UK in July when it was 42 degrees, but we're at Highclere. 42 degrees in the UK. I mean, that's not the norm. That's 106 or something like that Fahrenheit. I mean, that's just not something that, you know, 1976 was the last time I remember it being really, really hot in the UK. That was a notorious summer. Probably before you were born, Victoria. But so it's really difficult. I think, you know, we were up in Scotland in May and it was freezing. So you've got to think as well where you're going, because the further north you go, generally the colder it's going to be.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
The south you are, the milder it is. And actually, to be honest, you know, if you're visiting in the winter, I prefer it when it's colder, because it tends to be cold and crisp. Where if it's a bit warmer, that's when you get the damp and the rain. So difficult. Just bring layers. I have vest tops, t-shirts, and then a thin jacket. I have a scarf. There's pictures when I was back in the UK, and I'll be back in April this year. I arrived back on the 11th, so I'll do what I did last year and do a little bit of, this is what I'm wearing today. I'm not going to help you if you arrive before me, but I will try and sort of reflect what the weather's like. So then also, I think it's Robbie actually again. So she's gone to the London Philharmonic, if I can pronounce it. Should we get dressed up or is casual dress okay? So I think it's just, I think you put some notes in about casual dress is okay, but
Yeah,
nobody.
I think it's probably fine, but just but not jeans or trainers, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no rule about it. It's just nice to,
Yeah. I
dress up
think
a
so.
little bit.
Yeah, it's always just worth checking if like if there's any dress codes for any of the places that you're plan to visit, like afternoon teas and that and stuff like that. It's just worth. We went to the Shard for afternoon tea, so I did put a dress on and sandals. It was a bit more dressier, but some places are a little bit more relaxed, and some places I'm going to take my mum to the Ritz. I hope she's not going to listen to this, for her birthday, mate. It's a very special birthday for mum, so I've decided that this is the time to go to the Ritz. So hopefully I'll be able to show you kind of what it's like at the Ritz for afternoon tea. I'm trying to think. Oh, here we go. We've got some more questions. So for Windsor, is that a whole day trip? Can you see when Queen Elizabeth is buried? Windsor, you can spend the whole day because you can go and have a look around Windsor itself. So yes, you can see where the Queen, the late Queen, is buried. It's in St. George's Chapel. You just do check that the days that is open, because I'm trying to think off the top of my head, because it's closed a couple of days of the week, and I should remember, but there's so many different opening and closed days, so they have got an article about that. But if it's a nice day, yes, head out to Windsor. Go there for the changing of the guard, which is around 11 o'clock. I think some days I've got some pictures and videos of that. Do pay to go and see Queen Mary's Doll's House, which is fantastic, amazing to see. Yes, and I can imagine that actually Windsor's going to be quite popular this year because a lot of people want to go and pay their respects to the late Queen. So, and I certainly will be going. So that is worth something that if you want to plan to visit Windsor, just consider tickets and planning ahead when they're available, so that you can do that. I found Windsor, I don't particularly like headphones because I like to talk to people as you would imagine, when I go around. But at Windsor, it is earphones to have a look at the rooms. I guess it's just that they don't put information up because it's a working castle. So I guess the card, because they've got an official event, they'd have to move everything out. But there are curators you can talk to in each of the different rooms. So yeah, so I'd go there. We went there for about 10, walked up, sat and waited for the change of the guard. Actually went and we had breakfast first there. There's a crooked house you can go and see in Windsor. There's lots of other things to go and see in Windsor as well as the castle. So if you want to plan a day, give yourself the day. It's worth it. Trying to think and other places to go actually on day trips, because we've got loads of information about that. Somewhere like Hampton Court is an easy day trip as well. So if you're interested in Hampton Court, you can go down there from Waterloo, use your Oyster card or contactless to get down there. So that's another really good day trip. So since we'll be in London, so it's Monica, since we'll be in London the week before the coronation, will it be crowded and lots of places closed? Good question. And I'm just doing a bit of research on this. What's the feeling in the UK at the minute about the coronation? I think it's going to be a bit more low key, or is it not going to get away with it being low key?
I don't know. The Jubilee last year was amazing, and it was huge, and all the street parties that took place, and everyone decorating. I like to think it's going to be the same kind of atmosphere.
I think it's Charles that wants it to be. Should I call him King Charles now? I feel like that it needs it to be. We wanted it to be low key, but it's pomp and ceremony, so there's going to be pomp and ceremony.
Yeah.
Yes, places that will be closed because of preparation. Now I know that because I did an article yesterday about Westminster Abbey that's closed from about the 23rd of April, so I would assume that's not going to be open the first. Certainly not until the 6th or 7th of May, because that's where the coronation will be held. I did share an article yesterday, and there's a picture of the coronation chair. I've shared a lot of information about Westminster Abbey. I highly recommend that you do visit if you go in before that date or after that date when it opens, to go and see the coronation chair. It's absolutely fascinating. I mean, it's been used since 13 something to crown kings and queens of England. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
It's and I'm British, and I still go wow. It's crazy, it's incredible. Oh, you've had a question about private tours just for 2 people, 5 days. I think you do, but I can't answer for you.
I do. That's a yes and a yes. I do them for 2 people for 5 days. Depends when, because I'm getting
yes, you're busy,
quite
aren't you? Yeah, actually, that's something I'm just going to say in this. Take the opportunity to stay in this live. That there's only Victoria that's doing the tours so that's Victoria's business. So you need to book with Victoria, and you need to do that fairly soon, because I know that you've had lots of inquiries and lots of bookings already, Victoria, which is fantastic. I hope you can fit me when I'm over there.
I know. I hope so too. We need to.
I know. Maybe we need to get some dates together. I was just thinking that. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be over there for 3 months and you're fully booked the entire time. I'd be very sad.
No, we would definitely make it happen, Tracy. We've got to.
That's good. That's good.
With your evening tours or whatever it takes,
Yeah,
breakfast
absolutely.
tours.
Well, I've got to go and have pub. I've got pubs already kind of thought of pubs, and nice meal, afternoon tea, that sort of thing will be really good. I love the Cotswolds anyway. Very very jealous that you live there. Somebody has asked. I've just seen the question about castles. Okay, if you stay at one castle in England, which would it be? Oh, that's a good question. I'm a scaredy cat. I'm going to admit that, and I
Are you?
I don't know. Yeah, I am. Like, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. That's yeah. I shouldn't admit this in a live show, but I get a little bit. Ooh. The one I really would like to stay at is Hever Castle. Hever Castle. I'll probably pronounce it wrong. John England will tell me. Hever Castle, Hever. I always pronounce. So that one I'd really like to stay at. It's not too far outside of London, so you can stay there. There are lots of different castles that you can stay at, and lots of good castle hotels. I know Wendy, who I've talked to again on the podcast. She said I can't even say it. I'm not going to say it. Tregennan Castle outside of St. Ives, which she really enjoyed. She loved that. So there's fantastic castles in Scotland. There's Wales, Ireland, England to choose from. I guess it depends what you want, because they're going to be, some are going to be more luxurious than others. So I can put links to those articles. But yeah, I'm a bit scared. Stay in a castle. Have you stayed in a castle before, Victoria?
I have.
Oh.
I stayed in a castle. It's owned by the Landmark Trust.
Oh, yeah.
And they are a wonderful charity, and they take on various properties around Britain, and properties that were going to fall into disrepair. And they took on a castle up in Scotland, and the Mull of Kintyre, like the Beatles song.
Yes.
I won't sing it now.
Please don't.
But I stayed in that castle, and I had an 18-month-old with me at the time who wanted sort of, heated milk in the middle of the night. And I was like, I don't want to go down those stairs to the kitchen on my own in the middle of the night.
It's not just me. It's not just me.
I was a chicken, so I took a flask and it was fine.
I'd do that as well.
No, it's fine. It's great. It's great to go and find a castle and stay in one.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I am looking at Hever, how I pronounce it, but
Hever, I think.
Yes, I'm sure it's Hever. I
John England said.
I think John might say Hever. Ooh, I'm going to ask John.
Sorry, John.
Yeah, I need to go and stay in one. I do, but I just, as I say, I just get a bit nervous. But there's lots to choose from with it, and just check out the reviews before you choose one. And then we've got a question about Tower of London. I've read that you can spend a lot of time at the Tower of London. How much time would you schedule? 4 hours, I would say, really. Get there early, get there before as it opens. Before it opens, it's busy, it's popular, it's like the #1 tourist destination in London. It's fabulous to explore. Read a little bit about the history of the Tower of London before you go, because it will help, because there's a huge 1,000 years of history in that place. If you want, there's a free beef eater tour, which is good. It does get crowded though, so sometimes you can struggle to hear, but the beef eaters are amazing, full of interesting facts and really funny. If you go in again, if you want to see the crown jewels, get in the queue as soon. It's the first place you need to go to is the crown jewels, believe me, because it's so busy. The queues can get really, really long. So I'll be doing the walks tour again, which you're there for the opening ceremony, so you're the first people in, and you're the first people into the crown jewels. And I actually spoke to them the other day because they've got a London and a day tour that includes the Tower of London. And I did ask if it was a skip the queue or skip the line. And they said it isn't, but by the time they get there to the Tower of London later in the afternoon, the queues have gone down, a bit. So that's what they recommended. But yeah, so give yourself 3.5 to 4 hours really to really enjoy it properly, because there's a lot to it. There's a lot to see. There's a restaurant there, so you can go and have something to eat as well. But yeah, enjoy it, because it's a fascinating place to visit. It's included. I've just done a little bit of a walk-in itinerary, which starts at the Tower of London, takes you across Tower Bridge, and then. Well, I'm not going to share it, actually. I'll keep it as a secret, but actually I've shared it in the group, which incorporates, starts at the Tower of London and kind of incorporates that time. You go to Borough Market for lunch. It's actually a rather nice one. What would you recommend, an evening meal at the Shard or afternoon visit? Well, I've only done afternoon tea at the Shard. I've not done an evening meal. Have you eaten at the Shard, Victoria?
Afternoon tea.
Yeah. Afternoon tea is popular at the Shard because obviously if it's a nice, you get good views, but you can go to the Sky Garden and get good views that are free. So just make sure you book that in advance. Shard's really nice. If you're looking for a treat, do afternoon tea at the Shard. We did the Peter Pan experience, which was just so cool. It was really good. Yeah, really enjoyed it. So hopefully I'll be doing some more afternoon teas this year. Just got to pace them with a lot of walking in between.
Yeah.
But yes, I can't talk about evening meal at the Shard because I haven't actually had one. There's so many places to choose from in the UK to eat. Duck and Waffle is on my list for breakfast, which is really famous, really well known. Have you had breakfast there? Duck and Waffle? No. So that's one that I'm hoping to get to. I think we've answered all of the questions. And I think we've been talking a long time. So thanks to everybody that has hung around. Really appreciate it. Well, I just wanted to end, actually, with one thing, is reading books. I'm trying, in between running 3 websites and a podcast and doing the Facebook group, to actually read a bit more. So this is a good way for me to do it as well. So I thought I'd just share what I'm reading and about Britain. So obviously either historical fact fiction, but obviously with a focus on UK. So this is what I'm reading at the moment. So I don't know if anybody's read this. Is the 3rd one, and the Thursday Murder Club. So it's a fiction book. It's brilliant. Has anybody else read it? I just want to know, because I can't wait to finish. They're getting better and better, and I think they're
excellent.
They're brilliant.
Really funny.
I've given the other books away, but they're really, really funny. They're really well written, and I can't wait to see which actors and actresses get the different parts. So that's my recommended book for anybody that's looking for is Richard Osman. And I know you've got a book that you kind of were recommending as well, Victoria.
Yeah, I'm halfway through Hamlet, which is the fictional story of Shakespeare's son. And is brilliantly written. It was a bit of a slow start, but I'm really into it now. And I look forward to bedtimes. So I can get into
brilliant. Excellent.
Great.
So I'll put links to those, I think, as well, because I think it's just really interesting to know what has anybody else got recommended that they've read that's fact or fiction set in the UK. So that could be anywhere in the UK. That would be really good. I think it would be really good to share that information, and maybe we can get a bit of a list going and recommendations.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we've talked enough. I think there was one more question about different use of words, but I think we might have to keep that till next time, because obviously British English, American English, actually Australian English is very different words, but we'll save that for the next one. What do you think, Victoria?
Yeah, maybe. It's my bedtime.
I know that's what I'm conscious of. It's getting really late. We've done an hour, so I know nearly midnight in the UK. So I just want to say a huge thank you to Victoria for again coming on. She's always on the podcast. She's in the Facebook group and coming on Facebook Lives with me. I don't want to do them on my own, and it's like Victoria is the best person to do them with.
Thank you.
Really cool.
We appreciate it.
So again, Oh no, it's just brilliant. We get on so well. I'm sure everybody can see that.
Yeah,
So
we
just
do.
again, if you want to book a tour with Victoria, I'll put a link on. I get in contact with her as soon as possible because I know she is in huge demand. And you can see why. She's amazing. So for today, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's joined us for the Facebook Live. So that's bye from me.
That's really fun. It's great getting all those questions. Brilliant.
Yeah. No. All right, so I'm going to say it's. I should say it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from. Well, I can't remember the two Ronnies thing. Goodbye from him, and it's goodbye from me, or whatever it is. But anyway, bye.
Bye.